Space Marines, Dawn of War Definitive Edition. The Space Marines represent disciplined heavy armor warfare. They are the stalwart shield of humanity. They trade reckless aggression for unparalleled tactical flexibility and rock-solid defensive fortifications. The Space Marines do not rely on erratic momentum. The faction controls the pace of the battlefield through methodical zone control. Their infrastructure and economy incentivize establishing highly secure phi bases. They excel at holding vital strategic choke points. They maintain absolute squad cohesion. They adapt their weapons to counter any emerging threat on the fly. This playstyle systematically chokes out the enemy through superior positioning. However, mastering them requires balancing this formidable defensive profile against a lack of cheap numerical superiority.
I accept the challenge. Suffer not the weak to live. Withdraw and regroup! He who stands with me shall be my brother.
The primary strength of the Space Marine faction is tactical flexibility. Across all tiers of technology, Space Marine squads possess exceptionally balanced combat stats. They are highly effective in both ranged firefights and melee scuffles. Their frontline infantry can be upgraded mid-battle with heavy weapons. This allows them to answer threats without needing to withdraw for a refitting. Furthermore, the Space Marines feature exceptional global deployment mobility. The faction utilizes advanced drop pod delivery systems and teleporter arrays. This allows them to bypass enemy lines entirely. A Space Marine commander can deploy fresh reinforcements directly into a contested zone. Late-game armored columns and towering walking dreadnoughts are equally formidable. They boast incredible armor ratings and precise heavy artillery. They lock down entire front lines easily. Their powerful leadership auras bolster squad resolve. The defensive and counteroffensive potential of this faction is unmatched.
The enemy is attacking! Marine squad deployed. Squad broken! Fall back!
The Space Marines rely heavily on rigid tech progression. They do not enjoy explosive early-game expansion. The tech tree forces commanders into strict, heavily gated tier upgrades. A Space Marine force must carefully manage its research timings. Advancing to the next technology tier grants immense late-game power. However, it leaves temporary windows of vulnerability during transition phases. Opponents who recognize these tech transitions can launch aggressive timed attacks. This forces the Space Marine commander to rely on expensive static defenses. If the faction delays its tech upgrades, the production pipeline stalls out completely. The faction lacks inexpensive, fast recovery mechanics. It cannot easily replace lost tech buildings. Consequently, every single technological advancement must be fiercely protected. A disrupted Space Marine tech pipeline often leads to a disrupted mid-game strategy.
Marine squad deployed.
The Space Marines' elite durability comes at a steep price. The most glaring weakness of the Space Marine faction is low numbers. Their squads feature fewer individual soldiers compared to Horde factions. Elite infantry and advanced armored vehicles require a massive investment of resources. Losing an entire high-tier squad is a catastrophic economic blow. It can permanently stall your defensive line. Because these units are so expensive, the Space Marines suffer severely from mobility harassment. The faction possesses exceptional static defenses. However, these fortifications require time to construct. They lock the army into a localized area. If an opponent isolates and destroys individual squads, the faction struggles to rebuild quickly. Progress is completely reliant on maintaining a flawless zero-casualty defensive posture. Constant spending on squad reinforcements quickly stalls the expensive army structure. Adding to the Space Marine's vulnerability is the rigid line-of-sight dependency of core weaponry. Space Marine heavy weapon squads must be carefully deployed. This involves locking heavy gunners into stationary firing positions. Mismanaging these firing arcs leaves the defensive perimeter completely blind to flanking maneuvers. Additionally, elite forces are highly sensitive to armor-piercing or psychic ordnance. A commander must prioritize high-value targets. Otherwise, enemy heavy artillery and specialized snipers will pick apart the infantry. They will strike from outside your optimal range. The Space Marines demand immaculate target prioritization. A commander must constantly balance heavy weapons lines and drop pod reinforcements. Defensive structures must be deployed perfectly to ensure the line never breaks under pressure.
Eyes your ears.
Ultimately, the Space Marines are a faction of absolute discipline. They offer the highest defensive capabilities, versatile tactical adaptations, and reliable late-game armor. But without careful micromanagement of firing lines, their low numbers could result in total ruin. For those who master stubborn defense and sudden orbital strikes, the Imperium is yours to defend.
Question.